Hello, it is Wednesday, September 30th. I'm Jason Stanton. I serve First Lutheran in Onalaska as senior pastor, and this is my morning musing for today. I am thinking about Deuteronomy. Uh, my Bible readers group at First Lutheran, we are reading a little bit of the Old Testament, a little bit of the New Testament every day, 5 days a week for a year, and we'll get through the whole thing by the sometime next summer. Right now I'm in the 5th book of the Old Testament, Deuteronomy. Today's the first day when we're entering into it, and so I haven't read most of Deuteronomy since seminary, so it's all coming back to me. This is the book where Moses basically speaks his last words, and he has many last words. And he starts with a little history lesson explaining where we've been. He'll eventually get around to where we are and then where God wants to take them. And it's almost like it's like a last will and testament, a state of the union, and a kick in the butt all at the same time. And the reason they need a little bit of a kick in the butt is because the people of Israel are experiencing a great temptation. They are living in a time when Assyria, 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 has risen to be the superpower of the region. And Israel is trying to get into their Holy Land, right? And Assyria is so powerful that many among the tribes of Israel are wondering, well, maybe we should, hedge our bets. Yes, we will worship the Lord and do what we have to do there, offering the sacrifices that you're supposed to do, whatever. But we're also over here also going to be aware of and maybe worship a little bit Baal or Baal, or however you're supposed to say that god of Assyria's name. And at the time, throughout the world, every culture has their own god. Sometimes every town has their own god. Sometimes there's a god of this and a god of that, very polytheistic. And so, if that's kind of how the world works, and you've got your Lord as an Israelite, your one true God, but you see this other people get to be so much more wealthy and so much more powerful, so much more feared than anybody else, you would kind of wonder, right? Like, maybe their God is more powerful than ours, and mine, I'm still going to honor my God out of loyalty and honor to my family, my culture, all that kind of thing. But I definitely want in on the powerful stuff, the really powerful stuff from Baal too. And so Moses, obviously isn't going to be down with this. And so he puts it very succinctly. 30 some chapters worth of succinctly, but Moses makes it as clear as he can that if you want to live, and he means truly live, like abundant life, if you want to thrive and live in God's kind of truth, love, mercy, and grace, then you will be obedient to that God who has made you among the chosen people. God has shown you great love in making you one of the chosen people, and now it is our turn to respond to God's love with love for God, obedience to God. And that is Moses's emphasis, is a certain level of obedience to God. And I just wonder, as I'm boning up on Deuteronomy again and remembering what Deuteronomy is about and what it's for, not only what it said to the people of Moses's time, but what it can say to people of our time, I'm wondering, what is it that we could choose that would give us a greater, deeper sense of abundant life? What are our temptations? As much as the people of Moses' day are seeing the power of Assyria and are gravitating toward their God, what is it that we Christians in 2020, what is it that we kind of gravitate toward? What's pulling us away from God? And I don't know if it's as obvious and overt as what the Israelites of Moses' day had. They're given a choice between gods. I don't know that we wake up in the morning and are like, well, I think the messages that are sent to us, the temptations we have are far more subtle. I think we allow ourselves to get manipulated into a lot of the temptations we fall into. We don't take active measures to make choices as much as we let the world kind of make choices for us. We have a lot of people who tell us what to think and what to do and what to say about a lot of things. And a lot of us, myself included, parrot what other talking heads say or think without thinking it through for ourselves against the values that we know we probably should keep more closely. A lot of these messages, I mean, advertising, I've mentioned this before, we in the 21st century live with tens of thousands of messages per day. It's incredible how many messages we get put into through our eyes, through our ears, through all of our senses. And it's almost unavoidable that we would then get manipulated into saying, thinking, and doing some pretty, some things that pull us away from mercy and grace and love. There's a show, I don't usually make recommendations on Netflix, but there's a show I think all of us should watch, especially those watching me on Facebook or YouTube. FaceTube. Maybe that I should start a company myself and call it FaceTube. But Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all these different social media platforms, they are they're doing things to us that we kind of know, but we kind of like to ignore. And there's a show on Netflix called The Social Dilemma that I think all of us should watch so that we could become more aware of how our use of social media and search engines, all these different platforms, how it controls or at least manipulates us in return. They use our own psychology against us. These algorithms and all the different ways the computers work, they see what we watch, they know how we'll want to respond, they make suggestions, they move us from one thing to the next. We're being manipulated all the time. And all it would take is for us to try a little bit, to work a little bit at it, to avoid some of these messages, that we could be more obedient, that we could be more conscious of choices rather than just kind of parroting and going along with things we're told to go along with. So as we read Deuteronomy, and I think about the temptations of Israel to worship a different God, I'm going to be thinking about my relationship to God and how it is affected by my relationship to technology.